Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Caitlin. I am an American who is moving to Australia at the end of 2021, and this has been such an expensive move. So I wanted to break down the cost of moving to Australia on a prospective marriage visa, the extra expenses that I had to pay, especially during the panorama times. So stay tuned to see just how much it cost me to move to Australia. So the first thing that I obviously had to pay for in order to move to Australia is the actual visa itself. The prospective marriage visa at the time that I applied was $7,715 Australian. I'll put the Australian and American conversions up for you guys so you can kind of get an idea of what the price difference is. But overall, this visa was very, very expensive. One of the additional costs with this visa is that, unlike all the other partner visas in Australia, you have to apply for a second visa within a certain time frame once you are married. So the additional cost for that visa is going to cost us $1,310 Australian. In order to have a partner visa granted, you have to go through a medical check, which involves a chest x-ray and a brief overview of your medical history. This cost me $500 here in the States. When I went to go get this done in October of 2020, I had to pay two different costs, which totaled $500. I had to pay, I believe it was $175 for the chest x-ray and then $325 for the actual medical exam and blood test. Another part of getting a partner visa is that you have to go through police checks. Both the applicant and the sponsor have to go through police checks in their respective country, and I believe any country that they've lived in for more than 12 months. So I had to go through an FBI check as well as the state of Pennsylvania check. The FBI check was $39.75 American, and the Pennsylvania state check was $22 American. Mark had to go through the Australian Federal Police, the AFP, for his check. That cost us $42 Australian. I'm going to drop this resource below. If you're applying for a partner visa through Salvo Migration, we bought the relationship statement pack that they have. It was worth every single penny. It was incredibly cheap, and it was only $7 Australian. Definitely help with our relationship statements. I highly recommend. Link is down below. On top of all this, it cost me a little bit of extra money to have all the documents that I needed certified. So any identity documents that you upload for a visa have to be certified. Luckily, Mark has a friend who was a JP, I think they're called over there, and he was kind enough to certify all of Mark's documents at no cost. However, because my office had closed, the only notary publics that I had known, I had no access to, so I had to go to a local insurance company in my neighborhood and have those paid for. So for $5 for each piece of paper that I had certified, it cost me $60 American to get all of my documents certified for my visa. And an additional part of the prospective marriage visa is that you have to file a notice of intended marriage with the respective state that your partner or the sponsor is living in. So we paid $110 to have an officiant sort of walk us through the paperwork, file it for us. Whether or not we decide to use that exact officiant later on, still kind of up in the air, but at least we know that it's filed and that everything is ready to go when I actually get over to Australia. Now, I am somebody who is like a little bit extra and kind of loves clothes and has some sentimental items that I'm bringing with me. I needed boxes, tape, and bubble wrap in order to make sure all of that went over. So here's the breakdown of those costs. For me, the boxes ended up costing $47.10 American, and tape was $22.82 American, and bubble wrap was $54.28 American. So that is how much it cost me just for the packing supplies, not even the actual cost to ship everything over. Now, the actual cost to ship everything over, okay, so again, maybe if I had been a little bit better at decluttering and been a little less sentimental, it would have cost me a good bit less. But it cost me $2,241 American in order to send everything over through Send My Bag. And I'm probably going to declutter a lot of it within a year of moving to Australia. Not a smart move. The next big expense that I had were plane tickets to get over there. Now, before the whole panorama situation, let's call it, it was significantly cheaper to get a one-way ticket to Australia. When I went in 2019, it was about $800 American for a one-way ticket from LAX to Sydney. Right now, it's costing over $3,000. Right now, the whole COVID situation, the total cost of my plane ticket over to Australia is $2,982.52. Now, I live in Philadelphia. I don't live in LA, so I have to fly all the way across the country in order to get there. So I booked domestic flights through the same airline that I will be flying out on, which is United. And the cost of those domestic tickets for me was $424.30 American. This next expense, so I have 2 cats that are coming over with me to Australia. Moving pets to Australia is a very expensive process, and it certainly did not get any cheaper during the whole panorama situation. So the cost for the transport company that is moving my pets over, they're picking them up from my house, they are taking care of their very final vet visits, they are flying them over to quarantine, and they are going to deliver them all the way to our house in Sydney, Australia. The total cost of this was $13,145 American. So it's expensive to move your pets to Australia. On top of this, there were of course some additional fees. I had to buy their crates ahead of time. It was cheaper for me to buy them off of Amazon. So the cost for the crates was $95.35 each for a total of $190.70 American. I also bought an extra kit so that way they had metal studs to keep the crates closed together. There were different pads, there were like larger food and water bowls. Overall, the expansion set was pretty cheap. It was $14.95 each. On top of all this, there were vet costs in order to send them over the first time around. It's October, so I haven't actually gotten the solid cost for what it's going to cost for their final 2 vet visits. When I called before, they would estimate that it was about $140 per cat per visit. They need 2 visits in October before they fly out in November. So we are looking at $280 for each visit. These are the October visits. Before this, they needed their rabies titer test, I think it's called. So that cost us $710.28. There was transportation costs that were involved in all of this. I'm from Philly. I had to go all the way up to New York for my medical exam. That was $30 on the Megabus. I also had to take an Uber to the vet's appointments and back, and I've also factored in the cost for October. That's going to cost me about $120 American in order to get the cats back and forth to their vet appointments. And finally, the last one that I actually did not include in the final tally, but it's kind of uncertain right now, so I'm putting it out there somewhere in the universe that by the time I go to Australia, I will be able to do home quarantine, save myself 2 weeks in a hotel room, and save myself $3,000 in costs. So I'm not going to factor that in my total. But if that were the case, I would be paying $3,000 Australian to be quarantining in a hotel for 2 weeks. So without the quarantine, with the flights, the shipping, the visa, moving the cats over, my total cost in moving to Australia is $27,454.16. So is it expensive? Absolutely. I mean, in Australian, this is probably almost half the down payment on a small house. This is such an expensive move, but overall it will be so worth it. We are in the final countdown of 2 months to go until my flight, and we are so excited for all of this to start. So that's it for this video, guys. If you found it helpful, if you liked it, please like and subscribe below. I post weekly about moving to Australia, the process of moving abroad, and the overall difference between American and Australian lifestyle. My name is Caitlin, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!